too gay. Bye. Gay.
Yo.
Woo!
How's it going? How's everybody doing?
We hope you're...
How's everybody doing?
We hope you're doing well.
Excuse me? You care to repeat that in English instead of Simlish? Want to run that by me again?
I love Simlish.
Well, it is your native language, so...
I am native to the Sim.
Has your tongue gotten unstuck yet? Aaliyah was complaining earlier that her tongue felt like it was folded up in the back of her mouth, so I'm watching her like wiggle her tongue around, and I'm like, ah.
It is kind of unstuck.
Kind of unstuck?
Only slightly unstuck.
Homestuck.
Oh, don't talk about Homestuck. I like Homestuck.
Well, that's not the subject that we are talking about today.
No.
Today we are discussing relationship red flags.
Yes.
You have a lot of knowledge about this now, don't you, Miss Aaliyah?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so relationship red flags. We're not necessarily going to be talking about deal breakers in relationships because I think, as you said, they're completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, deal breaker for me, anyone that has a voracious sexual appetite, deal breaker because get away from me, spawn of Satan.
I think deal breaker for me would be a man.
That's a very general deal breaker, but I understand where you're coming from. So
okay.
Yeah, I get it. But that's not quite what we're getting at with this particular episode. We're more talking about the red flags when you're in a relationship and you should start paying attention because something is going wrong.
Yeah.
Aaliyah, you have had... I was going to give a slightly offensive statement. I guess I'm going to give it anyway.
Slightly offensive statement?
I'm going to give it anyways just because I kind of want to see your reaction. You have had a lot of very negative, horrible, awful, terrible, red flag relationships, and you cannot seem to navagate them.
I haven't had the worst things in the world. There could have been worse things that happened.
That's true. Murder happens.
I don't have a baby.
That is also true. Murdering babies happens.
Yeah, it does. Maybe in your head.
That's why I throw
my head.
That's why I throw them over the hedge. It's where the fetuses go.
And I catch them and I take care of them like a nun at an orphanage.
I understand, okay. So what I have in my head is now me sitting in my hellscape. Just this baby falls out of heaven and I'm like, oh shit, another one. So I like pitch it over the hedge and you're just sitting there in a nunnery and you've got like this giant baseball glove and you just snatch it. You're like, sweet, here comes the baby. Hey Alex, we've got another.
It's true. Gotta collect them all. Okay, red flags in a relationship.
Red flag, joking about hurling babies over hedges. Red flag.
That might be a green flag. I am a good person.
Why do you have to start off by I am a good person, okay?
Whenever I used to talk to my ex about like, what if I get pregnant, or like what if I'm pregnant right now? He was always like, well, we'll just drown it in the bathtub.
I mean, if you're in a relationship where that's the general running joke, sure. I mean, you and I can sit here and talk about pitching babies over hedges because neither of us really means it.
Sometimes it was funny. Other times it was like, hey, I need real support, not your jokes. Not your drowning baby jokes.
As I said, I think so much of it depends on context because as I said, we can sit here and joke about pitching babies over hedges, but I think that's because you and I both know that would never happen.
If I looked at someone holding a baby and said, I would throw your baby over a hedge.
I mean, I might be a little bit more concerned if you do that. But I think when you're legitimately asking your partner, what happens if I end up pregnant by accident? And when you're looking for real support and having them say, oh, we'll just drown it, you're kind of going,
I think if you're looking for a long-term relationship, a red flag is if that person lacks the willingness and ability to talk about future plans.
I think any good relationship, whether it's a friendship, familiar relationship, like romantic attachment, whatever, it all boils down to trust and communication.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the number one place that things really start to
go wrong
is in the communication aspect.
Yeah.
When you're saying, when you're, it's not even saying it, when you're telegraphing that you need support.
Yeah.
You should be, like, your significant other should be able to read the room enough to be like, oh, they need me to be more serious in this moment.
Yeah.
If you walk in crying,
yeah.
first thing I'm going to say is, are you okay?
Yeah.
if you say something dumb to me, I'm going to razz you about it.
Yeah.
But if you look at me and say, no, something's going wrong, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, ha, 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 inappropriate joke time. Like, you need to actually be able to read the room.
I mean, there are times where, like, communication-wise, where I can just be ranting and my girlfriend will be like, do you need me to listen right now? Or do you just need to vent and I can, like, read something on my phone while you talk? And I'm like, I can talk.
Seriously, that is one of the most underrated things I feel like anyone can do in a relationship. Like, seriously, asking what your partner actually needs. Like, do you need my time? Do you need my attention? Do you need me to sympathize with you? Or do you just need to vent?
Yeah.
Like, holy crap, that could solve 99% of all arguments ever.
Yeah.
Seriously, ask your partner what they need.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these relationship red flags, when you look at your partner and say, I need X, and they are still not unable, but unwilling to give that to you. Because I do understand that in some relationships, I think I talked about this in my Mommy Issues episode, where it was like, sometimes when you're having an argument with another person, they need one thing and you need another. And it's not always possible to give the other person what they need in that moment because it's a tug of war, right?
Yeah.
Especially with an argument. But when they are able to give it but unwilling to give it because they go, well, that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
It's like, we need to reevaluate.
A lot of the times, like, if there's an issue and you need to change something, I feel like there's really two options, or maybe three, is
murder.
Murder.
No?
And this is reasonable request, not murder.
Oh.
And the first one is you do it. The second one is you find a compromise and you talk it out. Or the third one is you say, I can do this, but I'm going to need some time to work it through and work on it.
Again, going back to the idea of communication, right? And I think a huge relationship red flag to me is when you can say something and they, like, either immediately discount what you're saying or they immediately forget or ignore what you've said. Do you know what I mean? Where if you express, okay, it's really important that this one task gets done today, and then you walk in and it's not done and you're just like, well, what happened? Yeah. And they're like, oh, I forgot. And it's kind of like, if you express how important it is to you and they go, I forgot, it's like, well, do you just not care? Why was, whatever you were doing more important? And I get that life gets in the way, but when it's happening on a consistent basis, I feel like that's when you should start cluing in that relationships are not a one-way street. It's a two-way street, and traffic needs to go in both directions here.
Yeah, I think a solution for that would be a lot, because I forget to do a lot of things too. It's can you text and remind me? Can you schedule a text and remind me? Can you, I might forget. Can we do something to help me not forget?
And again, it's looking for
solutions.
And I think that's another red flag right there. When every time you come up with a solution, that one person that's like, oh, it won't work. That won't work. Can't do that. It's like, are you trying to make things harder than they have to be? Why are you like this? And I mean, I am as stubborn as a donkey. Let's be real here. I can get into moods like that, but if it's something important, you kind of need to get over yourself in some ways. And I say that, again, as someone who's stubborn, you kind of need to help yourself get over that and be like, okay, I actually need to find a solution, because just sitting here moping about how things aren't the way I want them to be, that's not helping me. That's not helping the situation. That's helping nobody.
It doesn't work.
Nope.
And I just feel like having a partner who takes things out on you, like if you know that they had a bad day and suddenly they're attacking you for stuff, I can't do that. I think that's a red flag, because at that point you have to sit down and be like, hey, this isn't about me right now, and if you need to talk, we can talk about it, but I don't appreciate you treating me like I've done something wrong when I haven't.
Yep. And, I say, again, as someone who can fall into that pattern of behavior, I am still able to sit down if someone looks at me and says, okay, what's the actual problem? I'm able to step back and go, okay, I'm not actually mad about this. I do need to sit myself down and actually have a good hard think about what's going on, because, and there have been times in the middle of an argument that I've like stopped dead, looked at somebody and been like, actually, you know what? This argument means nothing to me. I'm not actually angry at you, and I am sorry for my behavior. I'm acting like a dick because I'm mad about something else and I just noticed it, and I am so sorry. But red flag, absolutely, that sort of like, almost, and I get it when you're overwhelmed and sometimes things just happen.
Yeah.
Like, things just pop out. Like, you're frustrated and you say something because, you just lost all the work on your computer or something and someone just walks in at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Arguments are going to happen. But that being said, you should still, again, be able to sit yourself down and be like, okay, what's going on? And if it's a problem, you should be able to discuss the problem.
Yeah.
So when we come back, I think we're going to talk about probably the biggest taboo, in my mind at least. I don't know if it's going to be in your mind, but in my mind, it's the biggest taboo.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that.
Hello and welcome back.
Okay, relationship red flags.
Red flags.
So, judging by your face right before we went to break, you had no idea what I was referencing.
No way.
Hello, biggest relationship red flag. Assault of any kind, be it sexual, physical, even emotional or mental abuse.
Yeah.
Like, absolute red flag. And, that seems super obvious, but I feel like there are so many people that try to explain it away.
Yeah, I think in the beginning it's really hard to notice those tiny red flags as they go up, the little red pegs, because they're not huge giant red flags. They're just like little lights in the distance. And I think one of those things could be like simple stuff like coercion. Like how, like, if you say no to something and they're still like, oh, come on, but we can do this and stuff like that. And not even just like fun stuff like sex and like drinking and all of that. Like, the pushing to do things that you're genuinely uncomfortable with, no matter what it is, I think is a really tiny red flag at the beginning, but turns into a big monster.
I mean, in the beginning, I feel like with these things, it always gets worse as you go on, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, I feel like it's always really small stuff, and it's like, it's not that big of a deal to compromise. But I feel like these things very quickly snowball and completely get out of control. I know for me, I, in my mind, have very strict rules when it comes to relationship red flags in that way, where I have always said, you hit me once and we're done.
Yeah.
You put your hands on me once and we're done.
Yeah.
And, I feel like there are so many people who look past that and they go, they didn't mean to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you accidentally give someone a left hook?
Well, when you're in it, you see it differently.
And I'm sure you do,
thing.
but I think that's why I sit when I'm not in a relationship and I sit there and I think to myself, what would absolutely be like a no for me?
Yeah.
Where's my stopping point? What's my safe word? When do I know to get out? And I feel like any sort of assault or violence in that manner
I would say,
for me, it's a no. It's a deal breaker.
I would say that's a deal breaker. I think a big red flag for me would just be the passing of boundaries in general. Like don't be too invasive. If I haven't shown you that I'm comfortable with you touching me yet, don't touch me.
Yep.
And if you do that, I'm going to be uncomfortable. And if I'm uncomfortable, that's a red flag.
Yep. And again, expressing to someone, because I mean, the first time they may not know.
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes.
There are some people who are very touchy-feely. For example, me.
Yeah.
I am one of those people where it feels so stupid, considering I'm so shy. But I think because I'm so shy, I prefer to show affection physically in some cases. I'm more likely to give someone a one-armed hug than I am to express how I actually feel about them.
Yeah.
But if that makes someone uncomfortable, it's one thing when you don't realize that about somebody and they go, oh, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. And you go, oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's another thing when they sit there and go, oh, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, red flag right there.
Yeah.
If you say something bothers me and someone responds with, oh, but it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You're like, honey, you don't get to say that to me.
Dismissive.
You don't get to say that to anybody.
Yeah.
You don't get to say what is or is not a big deal.
Yeah, because it's being dismissive.
Completely.
Not great.
And again, it's one of those things where, especially, I used to ask myself all the time, how do women, and I do say women here just because they do tend to be in more physically damaging relationships in some cases. Except I feel like there's actually a fairly high number of gay men that can be as well.
So can gay women. It happens with all types of people and all types of relationships.
It does. But I've always wondered, how do you get into a situation where you find yourself in a physically abusive relationship to the point that you feel like it's unsafe for you to get out? How did you not notice the red flags along the way? How did you not get hit the first time and say, never again?
I think a lot of it is the fear of, if I leave, something worse will happen. At least if I stay, I know what's out there. But if I leave, I'm not sure anyone else will love me. If I leave, I'm not sure what they will do.
And again, maybe it's just because I am on the outside. The first thing that always pops into my head is, but they're hitting you. There's no way they love you. You're going, oh, I'm afraid I'm not going to have love if I leave.
Yeah.
Do you have it right now? They're hitting you. How can you sit there and say, I love somebody, while physically assaulting them?
After so long, you don't relate love to what love actually is.
That seems so odd, but maybe that's just because I have like zero experience.
You haven't been in a relationship.
Ouch. My heart.
It's not pain, it's just a fact.
It may not be pain to you. It's pain to me.
Really, you don't need to have a relationship if you don't want to be in one.
If you don't want to be a relationship, you don't have to be one. You don't have to be a single relationship.
Listen to me, guys. If your parents are bugging you to get a boyfriend or girlfriend,
don't do it.
And you don't want to, don't do it. Don't do it.
It's not. No, that's not what it's
about.
Live
your life for you. And also, red flag. Codependency too fast. Don't rely on each other for everything right from the get-go, because that turns awful. Don't spend all your time together. Don't do it.
Honestly, that's such an interesting one, because it's not one that I normally would have thought about, but you're completely right. And, there are some people that are, I'm going to say they have clingier relationships, but that's just the way they are.
Yeah.
But I think when someone is immediately like, you've been dating for 2 weeks and they're like, oh, where were you? Why didn't you text me?
Yeah.
Why didn't you answer my calls? Like, red flag going up, like, why are you so obsessed with me? I have a life outside of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's such, that's a real struggle, because I feel like relationships now, at least from what I've seen, so many of the relationships I've seen have been this sort of like, they're constantly texting and constantly clinging to one another, and they're like, oh, I can't live without this other person. I need to talk to them, and I need them. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, what happened? When did you stop being a person and become your relationship?
The image that society puts out about how relationships should be is not conducive to a healthy relationship today. It's just not.
No.
That total dependence on each other, it doesn't work for very long. That's how fights happen when you... I heard this theory once where people often start fights with their spouse when they need time apart, so that they can have their fight, go off for a while, come back and reconcile when they're ready. Just so they get the time apart. And they don't know it.
They don't even realize that that's what they're doing.
Have you ever had a sleepover with a friend, and at the end you're just like, I gotta go home.
Oh, that feeling. Yeah. I know that feeling so well.
It's okay to get that with your spouse sometimes and take a break, because you don't need to be around each other all the time. It's harder if you live together, obviously, but I think a red flag is when you go to your partner and say, hey, I think I need some alone time, and they say no.
Yes. Even then, you know what? Even if you're in a married relationship and you need some space, say, you know what? I'm going to my mom's for a day or two. I'm going to a friend's for a day or two. Like, I just need a little bit of space, and it's nothing you did. I just need a little bit of space. I don't know why that's such a taboo.
I know.
I've never really thought about it, but you're right. It is such a taboo to be like, I need space. And it's like, just because you married somebody doesn't mean that you can just constantly be around another person all the time. I'm one of those people where I need my own space sometimes. There is absolutely no way I could deal with it if I felt like I had like a little munchkin following me constantly. I'd be like, go away, get away from me. It's the one thing that you and Charlie always tease me about, right? Where I'm like, do I want a relationship? Yeah. Sure. Oh, you messaged me twice in one day? Stop clinging. Get off me. Give me some space. I need to breathe.
I think for me, when I don't have my alone time, or I feel like I need to be alone, if I don't follow through on those things, I get irritable. I don't pay attention as much as I should have. I build up those resentments of like, oh, but I was feeling this way and you didn't do this. But if I just take a step back and have some time to myself, because often in relationships I find when you have time apart, You come back refreshed, you come back better, you come back knowing the good parts that your spouse brings to your life because you didn't have those for a little while.
Yep.
And that's, like, pretty good. Awesome.
And I think, again, the other one that just gets to me is, even beyond physical abuse, it's the manipulation to get what they want when you're aware of the manipulation and you still feel helpless to stop it.
Yeah.
Like when someone can talk you into, having intercourse when you don't want to, when someone can force you into going somewhere you don't want to, or the big one to me, when they start trying to limit. Did you ever hear this one? Oh, I don't like it when you hang out with so-and-so.
Yeah.
I don't like how you behave.
Yeah.
So I'd prefer it if you didn't hang out with them. I don't know how to feel about that because part of me is like, you should feel free to express your opinion, but ultimately...
There's a right way to do it.
To try and say, oh, don't go and hang out with them. I mean, expressing concern, sure, but trying to dictate who someone can or cannot spend time with... Huge red flag to me, because that usually screams to me that they are trying to isolate you, and when you're isolated, you're a much easier target because you feel like there's no escape.
There's a difference between a partner saying, I don't think you should or you can't hang out with this person anymore because of this reason, that reason, and a partner saying, I notice when you come back from hanging out with this person, you're really upset, you feel really negative, you come back really heavy, and I think that maybe you should think about how that person makes you feel.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
There is a difference. It's the difference between, expressing concern for someone and manipulating them to get a result that you want.
Yeah.
And, just phrasing says so much.
Because, the first one doesn't really acknowledge your humanity.
No.
It doesn't.
You feel more like a pet that's being told, oh, you can't go outside right now.
Yeah. There shouldn't be, not rules in a relationship, rules just for you in a relationship.
Yeah, where...
one-sided rules.
The one where it's like, oh, I can go and hang out with whoever I want.
But you can't.
But you can't.
Yeah.
Or, the one that gets me, when... Some people in a relationship are like, oh, I have to show my significant other my phone. Yeah. I have to unlock it and let them go through it. I'm like, excuse me? A relationship is built on a foundation of trust. If you don't trust your partner to the point that you feel the need to constantly go through their phone, why are you together?
Yeah.
I don't know. That one is just a huge pet peeve for me. I'm like, how? No, absolutely. And it's not that you're trying to hide anything. Mm-hmm. It's just literally, you have your privacy and I have mine. If we actually trust each other, like you should in a good relationship, you shouldn't need this whole, oh, I'm going to, play detective here and snoop through your shit.
I think jealousy could be a big deal. I think a red flag surrounding jealousy would be were you looking at her, the accusations and stuff like that? And
real answer, yes. And if you're looking at someone, you should look at your partner and be like, don't you think they're hot too?
Yeah. But
healthy relationship.
You should be able to discuss, hey, I'm feeling a little insecure because I kind of saw that you were looking at someone else. Could we talk about that? Could you give me more reassurance, please?
Communication.
Yes. In a good way.
Yep, that's what it all boils down to. But let us know. I'm sure that you guys have some experiences and some, red flags of your own.
Yeah.
I'm sure we missed a whole bunch. I'm sure there are so many that we haven't even thought of that we're going to be like, oh, yeah. But let us know. Contact us on all of our social media. Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr. TikTok.
Good one.
But that's all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening.
We'll see you later. Take it gay by gay, guys.
Bye.